Hello everyone, my name is Beidi. I'm from London Studio. Our game Luna the Shadow Dust will be out on February the 13th. If you like hand-animated puzzle adventure game, please go and support us. I'm on Bammsters Rated R Show. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Bammsters Rated R podcast. Today we have a treat for you. We have another interview. But before we get to our guest, I'm going to hand it off to Bam, who will introduce our guest. Bam, say hi.
Hello, guys. Welcome back. Yes, of course. My name is Bam, and I apologize for two things: Drax intro and the glare off my forehead. It's a bit blinding. Yes, I've got hair problems. Right? don't knock me too much. Yeah. You shut up. You've been riding each other for a couple of weeks now about our hair issues. Right, guys. Joining me is the main developer for Luna, Betty.
Hello.
Betty, say hi. Hello,
everyone. Hi.
Yes. Full disclosure: I have met Betty before. March 2019 at EGX Raised.
Yes.
Played the game there, loved it. Went back to play it again, full. Couldn't play it. It was just jam packed. And just one of those things when the game's good. People like to play it, and your game's being released very shortly. Let's talk about that.
Yes, definitely. It's a pleasure for you guys to having me today. So I'm willing to share as much of the background story about the game with everyone.
I like that. That's good. Drac, fire away your first question, sweetheart.
I'm ready.
So the name of the game is Luna the Shadow Dust.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I'm kind of jealous that Bam got to play this already, because I've found lately that I'm really enjoying, kind of like the hand-drawn, hand-animated style, like story puzzle games. So can you tell us a little bit more, like the background of the game, who the main character is and what's going on when you sit down to start playing?
Yes. The story of Luna the Shadow Dust is one day the balance of light and dark was kind of broken in the world of Luna, like an accident happened. Then when the game started, the player will see a young boy falling from the sky, and he wakes up by the bottom of a magical, enchanted, ancient tower. So along the adventure into this tower, he also met a mysterious companion, which is this cat dog ish / looking creature. So together they will enter this tower, start their adventure, tracing back the memories of the old. And also the players will discover what's the real relationship between these two characters, and also reveal what was actually happened in the past. So that's the intro of the story.
Well, so you mentioned the little cat dog companion thing. It almost looks like it's some kind of creature wearing like the skin of something else, and the art design style seems similar to the main character, who's wearing like a hoodie with ears. Was that intentional? Okay.
It is intentional in a way that probably towards the second part of the story, people will understand why it looks like, why the design looks like that. Because I think it's a bit of a plot related, so I can't review too much. But that design is definitely to do with the game, and also one of the reasons is also because of its technical issue that we find. If you give a character hat to cover their hair, it's easier to animate when they are jumping up and down. So you don't have to animate the hair.
Okay.
Yeah. But also because we also want to show some of the motion when characters goes up and down. So we still have those bunny ears attached to this hood. So we animate this bunny ear and some of the fringe of this character. So kind of in a way, we didn't really solve the problem in the beginning. We still have to animate bits of the hair, but that was one of the reasons when we designed the character. I also find out, which was quite interesting, that the designer of the animator of Super Mario Brother. They said in the interview that the reason they gave Mario a hat is also because they can avoid this issue that they don't have to animate the hair. So kind of everyone think alike, try to reduce the workload.
Oh, that's kind of cool. It's also kind of funny that in later games they ended up kind of animating the hat, though.
Oh yeah, I think it was in the very beginning. It was pixel art,
Right.
so like it was a bit tricky that you have to animate the hair in like pixels, so people don't really get to see all the details because it's so tiny. So that's why they say let's just put a hat on him.
Well, you can't really animate. What was it, 4x4? How big Mario was, or whatever that. How are you going to animate hair there? Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it was tiny. Yes, one or two dots.
So tell me, Betty, where in the world are you?
Sorry.
Where in the world are you?
I am based in London.
You're actually developing out of London itself, or are you somewhere else in the world?
Oh, our team, we have 4 members in London studio. I based in London because I live here and work here. Our project manager and the programmer, both of them, they are based in Shanghai. Our music composer also, it's like we work together. So she's based in Toronto. So we kind of cover 3 different time zones. Yeah. And it's really challenging for us to work like this throughout the whole 4 years. Like we have to Skype chat. We really have to find a time that everyone all wakes up. So somebody have to sleep late and somebody have to get up early. I usually take the middle part. I in the afternoon. I'm okay.
We know exactly what that's like because G's in Brussels. We have someone in the Philippines. We've got Drax over in California. I'm over in the UK. We've got all of We understand. Yeah. We understand time zones. Time zones are great. Well, you answered my next question. How many of you are there? 4. So 4 people have actually developed this game full time, or like a part-time sort of basis?
We start off this project part-time. We are quite naive. We didn't think that this game is going to take this long to finish. Yeah. And when we're doing the Kickstarter campaign, we can talk about that later. So when we're doing the campaign, we need to come up with a plan, see how much budget we want to ask for, like what was the scale of the game, so we can tell our backer. But later on, it turns out the scale of the finished product almost like 3-4 times larger than what we intended to do. And so halfway through, we really facing a dilemma that are we going to continue to finish the product that we're going to be 100% happy with, which is the larger one, or we cut into like 2 parts, release first part first, then the second part later. So we're facing loads of this kind of decisions. But in the end, we feel like, okay, you don't get a chance to do a game the way you want probably ever. So if it is your one last shot, you may as well, take the shot. So we decide that we have to do it full time because otherwise it's going to take God knows how long to finish. So apart from our project manager, 3 of us, my programmer, me, and our music composer, we're working on this full time from the 2nd year when after starting this project. So we kind of really have to plan financially very careful, see how we're not gonna sleep on the street and no,
I get that.
Yeah. So yes, it started off part-time, then it became a full-time job.
Well, so how it is.
We started officially 2016. The Kickstarter was in April 2016. So now it's it's 4 years.
Yeah. Listen, that's not too bad, coming off some games that have taken 8, 6.
I know that there are quite a lot of games I followed from Kickstarter before we started Luna. Still haven't finished yet. So
And a lot of people go into, as you said, very naive going into it. Oh, everything's black and white. No. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray. Things don't take X amount of times, there's always a problem, or there's always a dilemma, or there's always something else to overcome to get to the end result. And like you said, if you got the one shot at it, I'm sure Eminem said something like this, this is your moment, all that nonsense. Take it,
That's our moment, and we took it.
Well, then, well done to you. And you've got a finished product coming out very soon.
We're very blessed.
I can't wait. I'm telling you what, I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to ask, since we were talking about the team, is can you talk a little bit about your position and the things that you've done in your background, how you got into making video games?
Yes, I am the art director of this game. So basically, I do everything visual, like everything you can see with your eye from this game. It's my job. So it's animation, background, effect, what do you call that? UI design, everything, including credits, also any marketing material. Anything visual, it's my job. So as I said, I was naive. I thought this probably not going to be this much of a work, but turns out it is a very heavy load of work. My background is animation. I studied animation in the uni, and when I graduate, I worked as a designer / illustrator for a couple of years. Then later on, I get into doing freelancing job for animation and illustration. So this is kind of within my comfort zone, but still doing game is not, because this is our first game. I never designed a game before. So I didn't realize that there are so many parts in the game require design and animation, because for player probably they only see the finished product,
right.
But in order to get into this finished polished product, probably there will be like 3-4 times extra work, extra like demo, extra like placeholder, those material that later on didn't get to use, but we have to go through those progress in order to have this final finished product. It is a quite of work, but the good thing is, because I think my background is animation, and if you did animation before, or if you're an animator yourself, you will know that you mentally prepared for hideous work. This is what requirement for animator, like in order to make a character run or walk. You just have to draw a picture after picture after picture repeatedly, and every single frame, the movement will change a little bit. So it's quite. Loads of people ask me, like, is there a magical button or a software do the in-betweens nowadays for animation? Unfortunately, there isn't. I'm looking for the magical button as well. So if there is anything like this has been invented, please let me know.
Not even Pixel has those numbers or those buttons.
No, yeah. Unfortunately, that's just the uniqueness of hand-drawn animation, I guess. It is hard, but it's very rewarding as well, especially when you finish. It's a dying
art. It really is. It's a dying art. Hand-drawn, constantly flipping that cellophane, whatever they use, cellulose, that screen, and drawing it differently, constantly drawing and flipping up. You watch some old documentaries on Disney and how they used to do it, and it's absolutely amazing how they used to get the clear bits, and the animators just sit there, hundreds of them, in the same room, and they just draw this one scene, and one scene, 5 minutes, would take 10 days to draw. It's like, wow. Nowadays.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I when I feel it's too much work, or like I can't handle this much of pressure, I watch some of the documentary of Studio Ghibli. Like every feature-length film, they will make a documentary about how they make it. So I feel like, okay, look at those animators. They are creating work more complicated than our work. So you're talking about 5-second shot, a team of 10 people working on that for 5 months.
Yeah. Wow.
That's the kind of work and the quality they are looking for.
Funny you mentioned Studio Ghibli.
So whenever I thought about that, I feel like my work is nothing. So I should just shut up and go to work.
No, as I said before, funny you mentioned Studio Ghibli, right? Because
yes,
Drac noticed that this is very Ghibli-ish, and I must agree with him. It does have a sort of Studio Ghibli feel to it. You know,
Yes,
the
yes.
textures and the way it plays out and the way characters are drawn. I agree with him. Yeah, I see a lot of a Ghibli-ness in it. I know that that's a English word, but you know,
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Studio Ghibli film. I watch all of them, like countless times. So I guess it subconsciously influenced me a lot of how to tell story or how to design a character, and the kind of the color tone they used is it's not very flashy. It's quite
muted.
Muted, bit washed out, watercolor feeling towards it.
Yeah.
So I really like that, and I guess you cannot help being influenced by the work you've been admired for so long.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
Well, you were right, Drac. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, so you were talking about how this is, a lot different than, regular animation for, say, film or whatnot. What were some of the interesting challenges that you ran into here that you wouldn't necessarily run into just doing regular animation?
Yes. One of the example I would like to give is the working cycle. Like normally in traditional animation, you've done a working cycle. When it's done, it's done. Then, but in the game, you have to think about whether you want your character to be able to walk, run, jump, squash. There's a set of motion your character needs to do, and it has to fit with the environment. Like, say, if you make animation of the character step on something, so you in order to reuse this set of animation later on, you need to make sure that every single thing he will be stepping on has the same height, regardless it's a box or stone or step. Otherwise, you won't be able to reuse this set of animation over and over, and there will be like causing a lot of time later on. So you have to pre-plan loads of things before you start the animation, the set animation for the character. Also, we realized that this is a kind of challenge we brought to ourselves. We still don't know whether it's worth it. That this is something we try to achieve, which is we kind of want our character to be able to stop on a very precise position during the game. So in this way, you feel like it's natural. It's more like mimic the real working in our life. Say, for example, if you are very close to an object, you will not make a full big step. You will just nudge it a little bit towards it. So, but if you have this set working cycle that your character can only stop when this full distance has been covered. I'm not sure if I'm trying to explain it clearly enough.
I understand. Precise
movements. Makes sense.
I understand. Yeah, carry on. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Carry on. My ears are there. Carry on.
Yeah, because say, for example, we want, say, an interactive object to locate it in a precise place in this frame. So we kind of want our character to be able to just stop right in front of it, then interact with it. So if we only have one set of working cycle, it's not enough. So we need to do full working cycle, half of working cycle, then half of the distance of that, and even maybe half of the distance of that, like a mini step, just a micro step. So it gets more precise and preciser towards the location. So we end up creating 8 different sets of working cycle. So
wow.
Depends on where you click on with your mouse. So our program will calculate what was the distance and choose one of the suitable working cycle for the character to use. So he will stop precisely, kind of precisely at that location. We did a lot of research on this. We find there's no one doing this in any of the game. And now we know the reason, because it's just stupid.
Well, it's not stupid. It's just time consuming, and there's a lot of other things you could be doing. Yeah, I get it.
Way time consuming, and probably player won't notice this, and nobody seems to complain about the way that character works in the game. So after so much of work, we kind of hope that we achieve something, but we have a feeling that probably we find out why people are not doing that at the first place.
Well, you may have some. You may have some super fans out there that might actually notice this, but I think that kind of attention to detail, a lot of times, I think you're right, does go unnoticed. But if you look at things like, I remember when the Lord of the Rings movies came out, and they had all the special edition DVDs that would talk about, the different things about how they made different set pieces or costuming, from how all the way down to how they wove the fabric differently for the different character races that existed in the world, from the elves to the dwarves, and like how they made pottery and stuff like that was all different. And those kind of things do a lot of times, I think, consciously go unnoticed, but unconsciously, I think that your brain does often pick up on that. And that's one of the reasons why I think that those movies in particular, were so well liked and so well received as far as, the visuals. And for something like this, maybe they might not consciously think about it, but subconsciously they might think, see that the movement of the character is more precise than maybe expected.
Oh yeah, I definitely hope that any player who spot this might feel that appreciate the kind of extra work we did into this game. Because as you said, when I watch some of the film reviews, especially the background story, I love to watch those kind of video, because I just so appreciate how much work that people put into a project. Like, I remember the Titanic film, they were talking about they find a special factory to remake all those plates and the pots you use.
I've seen the same documentary you have.
I think so. Yeah. So I was like, you can't even see it in the film on any shots. It's just so small, those details, those prints on those china. But they can be bothered. They are bothered to make them in order to achieve this this real sense of everything. Is they try to do it as original as possible. I just so admire that effort.
Well, I think in something like a movie, I think that kind of lends to the actors, feeling like that they're in that space, and maybe it lends to their performance. Whereas maybe with something like a video game, that subconscious things that maybe your mind is picking up on that you maybe don't realize you're picking up, kind of help to involve you more in the game. I don't know.
I disagree, Drake. You see, like you said, right? The subconscious picking up on it. No, they know. With regards to what you were saying, and Beidi was saying as well, it's a case of it adds a certain texture, a certain depth to it that you can actually see, and you do appreciate it. Taking this time and effort to actually get them the walking cycles. They need to be quite precise, because that's how this game is played. Quite puzzly, quite clever. You've got to think about certain things, know certain color arrangements and so on. You've got to be that precise. And taking the time and effort to be that precise now means a greater product at the end of it. And what happens with a good game and a good product, it will sell. And I swear to God, I played this game. I loved it. Oh. I played it for 10 minutes. I was told to leave.
So sorry about that.
You didn't tell me to leave. It was that 7 foot tall German dude that says, "Come on, your turn, get off."
Oh yeah, he's from our publisher. People are queuing, which is a good sign that people are queuing for play.
I'm 6'4", right? This guy's taller than me. I'm like, okay. No, a lot of fun. So yeah, it adds a certain texture, a certain depth, and people will know that it's a quality product because of the effort that you put into just the simplest thing of walking. Yeah, yeah,
yep. Yeah. And I think 90% of the time, this main character, the way you control it, he is walking. So it's a big part of the performance of the character. So that's quite important. So we want to make it as perfect as possible. Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
And I'm a little curious. Did you guys, when you were designing the game, have an age demographic in mind? Because I when you see stuff like this, immediately you think, oh yeah, this is probably something that's good for kids because it's cartoony and animated. But then with the Ghibli style, like it could be targeted more towards older folks. Or the even the gameplay. I've seen a few things like this recently, not a lot, but I've really enjoyed the type of like cell shaded animation or and that type of gameplay. There was Tiak, Little Acre, and there's been a few others that use this kind of animation style to allow you to maneuver your character throughout the environment and solve puzzles and stuff. So I guess, who were you guys thinking of as far as an age demographic when you made this?
I think there was a lot of other similar games in the similar genre who also use this kind of animation, like the game studio Amanita. Yeah, they did a Samorist series and Machinery. I don't know if you have ever played those. So their games is also hand-drawn, like 2D point and click. So I play a lot of that particular type of game. So I guess that was my inspiration as well.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's a nostalgia thing from like when I was a kid, but I found that I'm really enjoying games that are animated like this. And I know it's a lot more work than just a typical video game as far as the actual visuals and animation.
Yes, actually, I remember the very, very first video game I ever played is called The Neighborhood. It was a clay animation stop motion game in the 90s, which is probably not everyone heard of it. I think it was co-published or developed by DreamWorks. So it seems like they had a big budget for making this game. That's my first ever video game experience. And by any chance, because of its animation, like heavily animated stop motion game. So that's why I got inspired doing similar games. I don't know, but it's definitely one of my favorite games as well. So it has, like after I finish the game, there are videos about how those people make these games. So I kind of, I watched those as well. So I feel like, wow, you have to spend this much effort into making games. So I kind of feels like this is something you have to do anyway before you're making a game. Making a game, it's not that easy. It's almost like making a film. So unless you are prepared, mentally prepared. So yeah, so I all the game I like to play, it's all quite heavily hand animated. So I personally drawn towards this kind of genre. So probably that's why our first game choose a similar genre as well.
Can I ask a question, Drake?
I was going to say I've kind of been hogging the interview, so go ahead.
Yeah, I hogged in the beginning. You got the second
yes,
part.
Please.
No, it's fine. So as we mentioned before, Kickstarter.
Yes.
Go on.
Oh, Kickstarter. Okay.
Tell us the whole story, because that I believe was quite interesting for you.
Yes. The reason we thought about doing a Kickstarter is I backed quite a few games before on this website. So I know that there is a way for you to get extra funding if you want to start an indie project is to do crowdfunding. And so that's why I thought, okay, I'm going to choose Kickstarter as our platform. I think also there's an Indiegogo. There's another platform. For some reason, we just chose Kickstarter. And our originally plan for this game was quite small, so we didn't ask for that much. Later on, we realized we need another zero at least to to match our reasonable budget. But that's another story. So we also learned, we studied loads of other games that has been successfully funded by Kickstarter. So we want to see what do we need to prepare for us to launch a campaign. So we realized you need at least to have a demo so people can at least try your games, and with otherwise it's just empty word and empty promise that might seems not be enough to convince people to give you real money. And you also need a trailer. You have to design your page reasonably nice. You need to be honest, like what are the backers are facing. So what risk they might run. So what's going to happen to your budget, to your planning? How long is this game is going to take? Obviously, the time wise, it was promised to finish within a year and end up being like 4 years. But thankfully, all our backers has been really supportive and patient. So, which is really, really lucky for us. So we did all those research. The first task for us is to actually make a demo. So we started from mid 2015. We worked about 4-5 months together. We get our first demo, which is not the one we are having now on our Steam page. It was a really early demo, has 4 levels, kind of show you what's the art style is going to be in this game and what kind of puzzle and what's the feeling of this game. So that took us about almost half a year just to put a playable demo together. After we have this demo, we made a trailer of that. Then the one thing I think we probably should do is try to promote our Kickstarter campaign before we actually launched it. We didn't, and we started after. So, but we are still quite lucky, and the Kickstarter website picked our campaign as one of the staff select, I think, during the time. So we get some exposure from the website themselves. And also because we have a demo, loads of like YouTubers, streamers, they can actually stream our games to ask other people that they are doing a Kickstarter campaign. If you like this game, help them. We are being extremely lucky that we got picked by Jesse Cox. I think he is one of the very top YouTuber from your cast, I think. So he has. They had a huge exposure for our demo. The next day, we just seeing hundreds of people pledge money within 24 hours, the fund was being collected after that particular video. So we are really, really grateful of that. So that's our Kickstarter campaign story. It was successful. It was a bit of a hard work, and but I think in order to convince people to give you money, you have to do honest hard work. Otherwise, it's just not fair.
Yeah, and I think that shows in the final product too, though.
I hope they will be happy after 4 years long wait. Finally, this product has been finished. Also, it gives us a good chance to reach our core audience, I guess. So they are the people who actually really like this particular genre and this particular art style. So we talk to them, we become friends with some of them. Quite a few of them are like indie developer themselves. So it forms a very nice community. So without this Kickstarter, I don't think our project will run as smooth as now.
I haven't got a problem with that. That was good enough. So the feedback you've received from being within 4 years, I'm talking about sort of, people offering
feedback.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure you got a lot of feedback. A lot of it wasn't necessarily likable. I'm talking about trolling and Steam comments and whatever have you. Have you had any comments? Have you had? Well, I say negative comments. That's probably the wrong term to use. Any constructive criticism that has actually managed to improve your game? Something that someone noticed and that you've actually gone, oh yes, of course, let's do that.
Yes, I think one thing, I don't know how, but we are very lucky of that we haven't met that many trolls at all. Almost all the feedback are like are honest and good feedback, whether they like the game or they point out some of the bit we need to improve. But people are being genuine and very friendly to us. So I feel particularly lucky because I sometimes go to other communities of other games, and I've seen the dark side of the internet, and so that is just crazy. And
it's a bit
luckily
vicious.
for us, all our luckily for our fans, they are all very nice people. One of the very, very interesting feedback we got is we had one particular level designed, and it was in the demo. But later on, we find out people stuck on this level for no reason. They just it's a color related puzzle. Then we talked to some of the people like, why are you finding this level so hard? And they tell me that this ball is blue and I selected blue. How can I not pass the puzzle? But I was like, but the color is green. Then I realized that I never thought about the people who has colorblind issue that might play our game. And that particular color I use is greenish blue or bluish green. So it's kind of land in the middle. So for people who has a colorblind issue, this is very confusing. And I did not know this at all because it's I think it's out of my radar, but also I think it's my problem as well because as a designer, visual designer, I have to consider people who has a colorblind disability because nowadays lots of app and a website they do consider this, and you can switch to a colorblind mode. They tuned certain color to make the like the contrast be more stronger, easier for people, easy to use. So I then realized, okay, this is a big issue. Then we have to sort out. So we redesigned this level. We pick some of the other colors, which is easier to recognize by people who has colorblind issue. And now another problem is we cannot test it because we don't have colorblind issue. We don't know whether we have fixed this issue or not. So we had post out some like developer updates asking if you're a friend or you know you have this condition, would you like to help us testing this level? So we then had another round of feedback. We also met a player who has a colorblind issue at EGX Race, and so he came to our stand and played this game. So I standing behind him and observing him, see whether he has any issue. It seems all fine. So I am so glad that someone from the audience told us that they were struggling, and we look into that and we solve this problem. So I hope that later on, when majority people play this level, that they don't have any issue, at least regarding colors.
There we go. Perfect. But I've got one more question, right? So
yes, please.
I played this game on PC when I was there, right?
Yes.
No issues. I think it was Mac. So Mac? Doesn't matter.
PC or Mac, yes. Yeah.
Mac is a dirty word in my world. No, jokes aside. Mac and PC, right? Is this game going to be hitting the PS4 or the Xbox?
Or the Switch?
Console is Switch.
The Switch is not a console; it's a tablet.
No. Okay. So it's kind of part of the console at the moment. So yes, definitely we were thinking to cover as much platform as possible. But according to our time and budget, we can only do it one at a time. So we aiming to get the PC Steam version, Steam and Mac, also Linux, covered first. Then we will move on to console or mobile. When we started this game, the Nintendo Switch is not even there. So we weren't thinking about that at all. But time flies and things changes. So now Switch are in big demand. And the size of the device and the way you can control it, I think it's quite suitable for Luna to be imported to Switch as well. So we're definitely looking to develop a Switch version, I think soon after our PC version release.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll just buy the game twice. I'll buy it on Steam and I'll buy it on the PS4. Done.
Oh, thank you so much.
Done. No. Done. Put it to the PS5. I'll buy it there too. Seriously. Seriously. Jokes aside, I played the game, loved it. I'm buying it. That's it. That's it. So tell me something. Future plans for Lenten Studios.
Future plans. Okay. Future plans. During the games that we kind of has quite a few different other games idea, but they are just ideas. So nothing really solid. And also because from my own perspective, I feel like if we're going to work on a game scale like this, probably we need to think about, is there any way we can solve the time zone issue? So because without working all separately from all over the world, this game might be able to finish a bit earlier than now. I think half of the time during our development was spent on communication. And there's a lot of miscommunication happen because you're typing or you won't be able to talk face to face.
We understand that.
You can't punch your teammates.
We understand that as well.
So we if it's gonna still take this long, probably we really have to think carefully before we start off a new project. And also there are a lot of like porting work we have to done, like the Switch port and mobile port. So that's going to take probably another half year of our time. So at the moment, we are just focusing on Luna at the moment. There will be bug report from player. So every now and then we have to keep our build updated. So we have to fix all the bugs. And also promoting our game is big part of our job now. As a indie team, we don't have those resources that all the media will cover you immediately. So we have to reach everyone by ourselves, and we have to do it ourselves as well. So yeah.
Fair enough. Focusing on Luna to make it even better for the PS4. I like this. I like this already.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, I want to take it back real quick because I know Bam is getting towards the end of it. But one thing, we've covered a lot about the animation and
yes.
Making the game and whatnot. But one thing we haven't talked too much about is the mechanics of the game. How you actually play the game. Can you tell folks a little bit about how the game is played, how you get through the game?
Yes. Luna the Shadow Dust is point and click for a puzzle game. So the gameplay of this game is point and click. I guess that was it's very easy.
Point and click doesn't do the game justice.
Yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't do the game justice calling it a point and click, but it doesn't.
You control your character. You can control both of the character. So it's a single player game, but you have dual character control.
Okay.
So you can control either of them, and they can collaborate with each other to solve puzzles in the later part of the game. You interact with the object in the game by clicking on them. That's the basic mechanic of our game. Also, the whole game don't have any dialogue. So this is one of the main feature of our game, that because there's no dialogue, no text, that everything is visual. All the story will be told through cinematics, wordless cinematics, and the music. So the music plays a big part as well. It kind of brings the emotion together with the story to the player. So it is quite challenging because without using any text, there are a lot of things can be vague and unexplained. So in our UI design, we try our best to make sure that players are very clear about which area you can interact. Like when a mouse hover over an object, it changes. So you know that you can click this, or you can step on this one, you can go this direction, that direction. So we make sure that player understand that. Also, we do like a little bit of a mysteriousness of not being able to explain the whole story in plain text form, because that leaves a lot of imagination space. to the players.
Ah, okay. Well, and I noticed in a lot of the like cover art type imagery, you see a character carrying a lantern, and
Yeah.
in some of the stuff, the still images on Steam and in the video, like the lantern is laying there and it's casting shadows on the wall that look different than the objects that it's casting shadows of. So, with the game being called Luna, the Shadow Dust, I was kind of curious how much of that shadow type mechanic do you encounter throughout the game?
A lot of it.
It's a major part of the game then? Okay.
Sorry, the last bit of your conversation is broken a bit.
Oh, sorry. No, I was wondering about the shadows on the wall, and how they're different. That kind of mechanic, like how much of that plays into the game? How much of that you see?
It does play quite a bit, especially puzzle related, because this game is like light and shadow. It's kind of a theme, one of the theme of the puzzle. So later on, people will realize one of the character will have ability. I won't say what ability of he will gain, but he will have ability to change form in a way that so you get to interact with the light and shadow within the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can turn the lights on and off. So the surrounding with the character will change. You can interact with the shadows in a certain way in order to progress. They might not be friendly towards you, or you can use them as a platform to reach somewhere. So I won't go too deep into the details, but yes, light and shadow plays a big part in the game.
Please tell me more. I need to know this. I need to solve these puzzles.
I cannot. Sorry.
Oh, gonna be a lot of fun. Right, well, Betty, it's the time. We're done. That's it. Happy days. End of the interview. And
thank you so much.
No. We have one more question for you. It's
yes,
the single most important question you'll be asked this year. And yes, I'll ask it to you. Crack on.
Well, this is kind of just a fun non-game related question we like to ask anybody who's on the show.
Oh, that's fun. I'm ready.
Yeah. All right. So, what kind of bacon do you like? How do you like it prepared? And what kind of beverage, be it beer, cider, wine, etc., would you have with that type of bacon?
Bacon, smoked bacon, sizzling fried, beverage, tea, I would say, because I don't drink. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
That's fun. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah. Tea and bacon. Yes.
I accidentally asked the same question to a vegan.
Oh, so what did they say?
No, fair enough to them. Like they took it and they answered, well, I'm a vegan. No, I didn't.
Okay.
and they said, no, we'll just have it's like tofu bacon or seaweed, whatever. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, dude, that's just tofu. That's not bacon. But no. But the way he described it, and the way he said the textures, I tell you what, I might just go vegan because it sounded delicious. The way
I didn't know this kind of vegetarian bacon exists. I might give it a try.
It does. And he said he wanted jasmine tea with it. Never had jasmine tea. I'll try that.
Well, that's good stuff.
Never had it. I'll try it. Give me some jasmine. I'll have it. So yeah, each to their own. You wanted smoked sizzling bacon with a cup of tea.
Yes,
that's how you have it sometimes. Just simple bacon. It's always best sometimes. There have been other guys saying they wanted to get an apple, wrap that in bacon, cover it in brown sugar, stick it in the oven for half an hour, pull it out and eat it that way. I'm like, oh,
wow,
that sounds so delicious.
It sounds so delicious.
Yeah. And then some people put pineapple on their bacon. Makes even sound more tasty.
Oh, this is I can confirm this is the most important question I've been asked this year. So valuable to me.
Bacon is the true decider when it comes to many things. What would bacon do?
Yeah, what would bacon do? Could be the next game idea.
You might be surprised how many folks we've tried to talk into putting bacon into their games, and some of them have.
It's actually interesting how they've managed to go about cleverly sneaking a bit of bacon into their game. It's like, why have you done this? Why? But no, stick it in. A lot of fun. There's a game I shall not mention. That stuck a bacon asteroid in their game. If I can get the pointy right. There's another one that put a bacon carton, another one that put a bacon billboard. Funny stuff, man. It's all for a joke and a laugh, and it's when you see it and you play it and the way they've done it, it's absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Funny things.
This is so fun. If in our next game there are any bacon come up, we will definitely give you credit.
Oh! What have we done? No, it's just a little bit of fun, It's a lot of fun, and like I said, bacon is the great decider. You either love it or you hate it. That's it, really. Betty, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Putting up with myself and Drek, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I can't wait until your game releases, because I've bought many games of our guests that have come along, but I tell you what, I'm quite excited for this one. Excited.
Thank you so much. Thank you
for joining us, Betty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We greatly appreciate you coming on. And for the folks listening, a like and share is much appreciated. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please do. We do these kind of interviews every single chance we get, and we've got a large backlog if you're curious to look into see some of the other developers we looked at as well. The game we looked at today, or we're talking about, was Luna the Shadow Dust. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you'll also get an opportunity to see gameplay from the demo, along with our smiling faces.
Well, I was going to say my pretty face, but we all know that's a laugh.